Hello. This is Reflections. Welcome. My name is Joanna. In this opportunity I am going to comment on 5 scenarios that entrepreneurs should handle. They are basic guidelines to be able to start and maintain, because nowadays, more than starting an enterprise, sustainability over time is the most important thing. These are some aspects that must be taken into consideration during the different stages through which the venture will be going through. This will allow them to understand the operation and be more alert to possible risk scenarios that may be generated. The first one has to do with the idea, but it cannot be a simple idea. It cannot be an idea that seems wonderful to you. That idea has to be linked to satisfy some need. It has to have some innovative component. It has to have viability in the market, in terms of production, distribution, packaging, price, among other aspects, such as the behavior of the competition, if it is the case. So the first point to be evaluated is the market need to acquire a consumer good, whether it is a product or service. Economically speaking, it is the amount of money that the demanders are willing to pay for a certain product or service, part of the law of supply and demand. But not only this element is important, innovation, as the emotional component that adds value, and improves the conditions of the person who buys it. It is a powerful sales trigger, which also generates a chain reaction. There is also an economic term for this. It is called the neighbor's emulation, which is nothing more than the sensation experienced when the neighbor arrives at your house with a new car, or with something of value, such as a piece of clothing. You can also call it envy. The truth is that you cannot venture with ideas that do not meet these requirements, because consumers may say no at the end of the road, and that will be the end of that story. At this point, for those who are operating in the market, it would be good to evaluate if your product covers a market need, is innovative, or what do you think is the reason why your customers buy. Another good question would be, what do you think is the way to improve your process in the sales of your products, to give the customer that plus that guarantees their loyalty, because the competition is just around the corner. Having said that, I will move on to analyze a second point. It has to do with day-to-day business. That is, it involves focus and attitude. There are various definitions of the concepts expressed, but I am going to try to set them towards entrepreneurship. When speaking of approach, the concept is very similar to the definition of economy, when it is said that it is the obtaining of the greatest satisfaction of needs with the available scarce resources. The approach in this case, to be assertive, the strengths must be evaluated, so that they can become firm in their purpose, while the attitude would be the way by which a person would be in capacity or not, to assume, to handle, or to approach their results. And it is that a hormonal imbalance is formed, a product of the sensations provoked with the transit of the path of what you want to do, and what you can really do, which are entirely two different things, or worse, when it does not depend on you, and it is a scenario with what you want, against what someone else wants, or can do. It also happens with expectations and realities, or unexpected results. These are situations that you have to learn to manage and control. Because you can take advantage of that if you manage it logically. The third point has to do with management, that is, planning and administration of resources. Nowadays it is essential to dedicate a reasonable amount of time to these activities, which will allow you to reduce risks and/or access opportunities for improvement. For this, it is important that all the people who constitute the organization are clear about what they have to do, and how far the scope of their tasks reaches. The best way to plan is to analyze all the activities that make up the business, group them into processes, such as sales, customer service, administration, etc., and assign each person or employee to a group of these activities. You must be clear that you cannot assign activities of different processes to the same person, since you can lose control of the management. In this way, an employee who sells cannot be collecting, and even less when there is no control over the cash register. An employee who makes purchases cannot make payments, to name a few examples. Another important point is the records of each activity, which are translated into manual or digital receipts, which are generated throughout all business processes. They are the ones that allow to obtain an objective measure, in case there is any discrepancy between employees of different processes, between employees and customers, or suppliers. The more control there is, the fewer possibilities there will be to generate undesired situations. Finally, the development of procedures to validate and close cycles. These are imaginary lines that go through different processes, with the purpose of evaluating them, and creating control points where they are required. An example of this could be a sales procedure, where it must be validated that what the customer requests is what he receives, and also what he must pay for. It sounds simple, but it is not. Auditors have a saying that applies to any irregular situation: think wrong and you will be right. The fourth scenario has to do with the evaluation of the business, i.e., obtaining the necessary metrics or indices to detect significant changes in each business process. There are simple and complex indexes. The simple ones are made up of one variable, such as the monetary result of the sales of a given period, coming from the financial statements, and other more complex ones that involve two or more variables, such as average revenue per customer, average cost per product, inventory turnover, etc. There are many of them. It is good to clarify that not all financial or statistical indexes become a support for decision-making. This will depend on the type of enterprise, i.e., each enterprise should have its own metrics, and they should be oriented to the types of activities in the business. Technological products would be oriented towards quality control, if they are exclusive products with customer service. If they are volume businesses, such as distributors and self-markets, they will be oriented towards inventory turnover. By analyzing the business activities, as in the previous point, you will be able to determine what kind of metrics you considered the most important to evaluate yours. In Enrique Lopez Ch's YouTube channel, you will find a video corresponding to this particular topic, with some useful indexes for entrepreneurs. You can access it and get better information to help you find the ones you need. Also, in some platforms, statistical data is generated, in terms of topics and published content, people who might be interested in the page, people who leave a like to a publication, people who leave comments, among others, and who might eventually be interested in buying some of the products you offer, so it would be important to take them into consideration, since we are talking about potential income. Finally, the scenario that has to do with the legal aspect, all the fiscal and parafiscal obligations in Venezuela, which must be faced, including maintaining biosafety protocols, and brand management. For this, it is important to rely on professional outsourcing to provide the necessary support and avoid risks. The payment of national taxes, state taxes, and all the necessary permits required, depending on the type of business. This must be handled by people with expertise and following the processes of law. These are the 5 scenarios that entrepreneurs should handle. I hope you have found it useful. Soon I will be posting another video with a topic of interest. I cordially invite you to stay tuned to this channel. Ring the bell to keep in touch, and send a heart if you liked it. Soon we'll be prepare another video for you. This initiative of reflections is courtesy of Me Entrepreneur, your step-by-step for entrepreneurship, and 500 notes for ventures. Read and reinvent yourself. These are 2 excellent options that you cannot miss. See you, and thank you very much for listening.